Ores and ingots are the #1 key to progressing in Hytale, and while the first few ores you come across may seem easy to obtain, the overall ore system is much more complex than it appears at first glance. Copper is the first ore that you'll come across in Hytale. It's fairly easy to spot, giving off a faint orange glow, and can primarily be found inside of caves, though you can find it by mining down as well. That said, caves are by far the easiest and most reliable way to gather it. Once you collect copper ore, you can craft a copper pickaxe. At this point, it's completely up to you whether you want to stop and fully kit yourself out with copper tools, armor, and weapons, but the next step up is iron, which is often found in the same areas as copper. One important thing to understand is that Hytale does not lock ores behind tool tiers like Minecraft does, so you don't need to upgrade tools to mine specific ores. Every ore in the game can be mined with a crude pickaxe, with the exception of Adamantite. Iron also has a distinct appearance, though later on it can sometimes be confused with silver, which we'll cover in a little bit. In my opinion, iron is the best early game ore and should almost always be prioritized over copper. If you hover over iron items in the workbench, you'll immediately see the stat improvements compared to copper, making the upgrade very noticeable. Ores in Hytale are tied directly to the zone that you're in. Unlike Minecraft, digging deeper does not mean that you'll start finding rarer or more exotic ores. Instead, progression is handled almost entirely through zone difficulty. As of right now, Hytale has 4 main zones, and if you're new, here's a quick and clean overview of how that system works. Zone 1 is Emerald Wilds, which is the first area that you'll spawn into. This zone is made up of lush, green landscapes and is designed to ease you into the game. Here, you'll primarily find copper and iron, making it the safest and most forgiving area to learn the basics of mining, combat, and exploration. Zone 2 is the Howling Sands, the desert region of the world. This is where things start to ramp up. The main ore introduced here is Thorium, which is considered Tier 2. Thorium has a greenish appearance and immediately signals a jump in difficulty. Enemies hit harder, encounters are more frequent, and exploration requires a bit more preparation. Thorium is most commonly found in caves, but unlike copper and iron, you'll also see it spawning closer to the surface, especially along hillsides and rocky slopes. It's also important to note that resources from previous zones don't disappear. Copper and iron can still be found in the Howling Sands, and this pattern continues across all of the future zones as well. Higher tier zones simply add new ores on top of what already exists, rather than replacing them. Gold is the next ore that you'll be running into, and it works a little differently from the others. Unlike copper, iron, or thorium, gold isn't tied to a single zone. It can actually be found across all zones in the world. From everything that I've tested, gold most commonly spawns underwater, both in shallow areas and deeper sections, regardless of the zone that you're in. You can also find gold veins in snowy mountain regions, but those are much more rare compared to the underwater spawns. Because of this, gold is surprisingly easy to obtain once you know where to look. However, despite how common it can be, gold isn't part of the main progression tiers for weapons or armor. You won't be crafting full gold gear like you do with copper, iron, or thorium. Instead, gold is mainly used for crafting stations like the Alchemist Workbench and a handful of specialized recipes tied to potions and advanced crafting systems. Overall, gold is still important to collect, but it doesn't directly increase your combat power the way other ores do. Think of it more as a utility resource rather than a progression gate, useful for unlocking systems rather than upgrading your core gear. Finding ores can become a bit confusing with how the systems are laid out, and that can become a little bit stressful for new players who are trying to understand these systems. That's where Mitra 9 comes in. Mitra 9 is a non-alcoholic supplement that quite literally makes you feel good. You see this guy over here? He's having a bad day. That's you without Mitra 9, and that's you with Mitra 9. These drinks give you a high without the impairment. While your buddy over there is getting drunk every night looking like a fool, you can be different and sip on over 30 different ice cold beverages like cream soda, which is my favorite, and feel no wooziness and no hangover. You see, Mitra 9 doesn't just replace alcohol, it revolutionizes it by acting as a coffee replacement for rough mornings and even a relaxer for hectic nights. And if you thought it won't get any better, well, I'm actually refunding one lucky person their entire order every week for the next 6 months. Simply use code Goldmane or my link in the description to try Mitra 9 and save 25% off your entire order at mitra9.com. The next tier of ores that you'll start encountering is Cobalt and Silver, and both of these are found in Zone 3. Known as the Whisperfrost Frontiers. This is where the ore progression really starts to change pace. Zone 3 is a significant jump in difficulty compared to Zone 2, introducing far more dangerous enemies and harsher environments, so you want to be more properly geared before spending too much time here. Cobalt is the main progression ore in this zone. Unlike earlier ores, Cobalt isn't limited to just caves. You can find it scattered throughout the region, both on the surface and underground. That said, caves are still the most reliable way to farm it consistently. Cobalt represents a major power spike, offering a substantial upgrade to both weapons and armor, and is one of the most important tiers for pushing into harder content. Silver can also be found in Zone 3, but it's noticeably rarer than Cobalt. Similar to gold, silver isn't a core progression ore for standard armor or weapons. Its primary use right now is for crafting staves at the Arcanist workbench. While it doesn't have any applications at the moment, it's very likely silver will become more important in future updates as additional systems and recipes are added. Now moving on to Zone 4, this is where you'll find Adamite, the strongest tier of ore currently available in the game. Well, at least for now, since there is a higher tier that can be obtained later, which I'll cover shortly. Zone 4 is known as the Devastated Lands, and it's easily one of the most dangerous regions in Hytale. The entire zone is themed around volcanic activity, lava flows, and extremely overpowered enemies that will punish you if you're undergeared or underprepared. This is not a place that you're going to want to casually wander into. Adamite is also unique compared to every other ore that you've encountered so far. It does not spawn in caves. Unlike the earlier zones, the volcanic regions don't really have a traditional cave system. Instead, Adamite spawns directly on the surface, often exposed in the open. Because of this, it's actually fairly easy to spot and mine, as long as you can survive long enough to do so. The challenge here isn't finding Adamite, it's dealing with the threats that guard it. If you can handle the enemies of the Devastated Lands, Adamite becomes one of the most rewarding ores in the game and is a massive step forward to true endgame. All of these ores are used to craft your core gear in Hytale, including your armor, weapons, and tools. This covers everything from swords, bows, and shields to your main harvesting tools like pickaxes and hatchets. As you move up through each tier, mining becomes faster and combat becomes noticeably easier, giving you a clear power advantage over lower tier gear. That said, it's important to be realistic about progression. While the early tiers are necessary stepping stones, most of them are fairly temporary. Copper, iron, thorium, and even cobalt will help you survive and progress, but none of them truly shine long term. In my opinion, unless you're working towards Adamite, the lower tiers aren't worth settling into for too long. Your goal should be to push through each tier as efficiently as possible and reach Adamite gear, where you'll finally feel a massive jump in power and survivability. The final tier of ore that you'll eventually be able to obtain in Hytale is Mithril. As of right now, Mithril isn't officially obtained in normal gameplay, but it is expected to be added in the future. Based on how progression works so far, it's very likely that Mithril will be tiered to its own unique zone or endgame area, meaning players will need to push deep into the game to actually access it. If you jump into creative mode, you'll also notice that there's several additional ores that don't currently exist in the official survival worlds. These include bronze, onyxium, and prisma. Bronze appears to be a more beginner-friendly material, possibly intended for early game progression. Onyxium looks like a very late game resource, likely comparable to or if not beyond Adamite. Prisma is also a bit of a mystery at the moment, as there isn't really enough information to clearly define its purpose yet. What this does confirm is that Hytale's progression system is far from finished. There's clear evidence that more ores, tiers, and progression paths are planned for the future. But because of that, parts of this guide will eventually become outdated as new zones, resources, and systems are introduced. Anyways, that's it for today's video. I wanted to keep this one nice, quick, and easy. No filler, just kinda straight to the point. So anyways, thanks for watching.